Hello, my name is Gabriela de Armas, and I will be doing a psychodynamic analysis on Anakin Skywalker, which is a character from Star Wars. Let's talk about the four psychodynamic theories. Freud's theory. Freud came up with the provinces of the mind theory, where we learn about the ego, superego, and id. We see the id in Anakin Skywalker. The id is a part of the completely unconscious region of personality. It has no contact with reality, but strives to satisfy basic desire, regardless of the consequences. It has no morality, therefore cannot make valid judgments nor distinguish good and evil. Adler theory. The six tenets of the Adlerian theory showcase the main statements of individual psychology. The first tenet is striving for success or superiority. People that strive for superiority are largely motivated by personal inferiority and have little to no concern for others. Jung theory. Jung's archetype concept refers to ancient images that derive from someone's personal, collective, and conscious. Through Jung's concepts of archetype, we see the shadow in Anakin. The shadow represents the dark side and inferiority of our personality, the morally objectionable tendencies that we as humans would never want to face. Horney's theory. Horney's psychoanalytical social theory states that social and cultural conditions, especially childhood experiences, are responsible for shaping one's personality. Horney expresses that basic hostility is repressed feelings of rage that originates during childhood when children feel their parents will not satisfy their needs for safety. Meanwhile, basic anxiety is the outcome of repressed hostility and insecurity. It is a feeling of being alone and isolated. And we can see how Anakin develops feelings of basic hostility and basic anxiety throughout his childhood, which leads to his neurotic needs and behavior in his adult years. Some key analysis points would be that since Anakin turned to the dark side, he began to only care about power and gain pleasure in killing and hurting others, rather than striving to protect the people and be a part of the Jedi Council. This showcases how the id and shadow, Freudian and Jungian theory, overtook his personality, which eventually led to his demise as a Jedi and his beginning as a Sith. Since he was a child, Anakin always strived for superiority, whether it was being the strongest Jedi or the most powerful Sith. His personal inferiority he felt since he was a child, living in traumatic conditions, led him to feel a hunger for power rather than succeeding in his dreams of being a heroic Jedi. Alderan theory. Being a child slave with no father on Tatooine, Anakin began to gain feelings of basic hostility and basic anxiety from his mother. Hornate theory. His mother failed to keep him safe and left him alone and in fear after her tragic death, which only led to these feelings being developed. As a neurotic being, Anakin began to use power as a defense mechanism and felt a need for power. His need to dominate others is a way of him to protect himself and avoid feelings of weakness and stupidity. Some critical evaluations. The most useful theories when analyzing Anakin was Horney's psychoanalytical theory and Jung's archetype theory. Using Horney's theory, we were able to see how childhood trauma Anakin experienced caused him to gain feelings of basic anxiety and basic hostility. These feelings later affected him in his life as his feelings of basic hostility and loneliness grew to an extreme and caused him to push away the people he loves the most, like his wife. Jung's archetype theory shows us how the shadow amongst Anakin's personality grows to overtake him as a whole, thus leading him to live a dark and objectionably evil life. Both theories intertwine as both his childhood experience and his shadow personality cause him to live a life of wanting domination above all to protect himself from feelings of weakness and inferiority. I've learned that these theories often intertwine in many ways and are similar in certain aspects. For example, Freud's theory of the id and Adler's tenet about the dynamic force behind behavior is striving for superiority both work together to create this type of personality in someone. Unconsciously, Anakin's id is his pleasure-seeking desire that plays a role in his strive for superiority. Some key takeaways. Childhood experiences like trauma have a huge impact on how one behaves and morally acts later in life. Although they are a part of the unconsciousness, the shadow and id can play a key role in one's personality and can even take over the other parts of personality that can bring different traits in oneself. Aggression, inferiority, and hostility, which we all see in Anakin's younger self, are all dangerously powerful traits that carry a heavy effect if strongly developed at a young age. Spoiler alert, Anakin eventually becomes Darth Vader. The infamous Darth Vader is what Anakin became after he was fully overtaken by the dark side. And at the bottom, we see a very powerful quote of Anakin right before he became Darth Vader from the movie he became Darth Vader. I'm not the Jedi I should be. I want more, and I know I shouldn't. We can see that dynamic between good and evil, the ego and the id fighting. The id obviously wins. These are my references, and that is the end. Thank you for watching.